Hello and welcome. This is Pam. We are going to get started right away. I'd like to welcome you to Facebook Live. Hopefully I'm on right now. Just want to make sure you guys can hear me. All right, so my name is Pam Bartha and I am very, very excited to spend this time with you. Hello, Marie Grace. This is a very special Facebook Live. Hello, Jeanette. My name is Pam Bartha. I'm the author of Become a Wellness Champion and the founder of Live Disease Free. If you suffer with multiple sclerosis or any type of a neurological condition, you're going to love what I'm going to share, because what I'm sharing with you are brand new, well, I would say within the last year or so, but things that I've really been learning a lot about. So this would be new insights and research into the true cause of multiple sclerosis. The reason that this is so important is that when we truly understand the real cause, like really understand, it really makes a huge difference in how we are going to treat it, right? So what I'd like to start off with is I just want you guys to just say hello. Please interact with me as we're going through this Facebook Live. Right now I'm looking at a little screen and I'd love to see some hearts and some thumbs up. And also please, if you yourself or if you know of other people that are really struggling with their health, I would love for you to share this with others. I really hope that you help me to make this go viral, because this is a huge, huge breakthrough. I work with people that are suffering with multiple sclerosis. Some of you may have never met me before, but my name is Pam Bartha and I'm the author of Become a Wellness Champion and I'm the founder of Live Disease Free. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis 28 years ago. And because I learned early on that multiple sclerosis is caused by infection, that is why I've been able to live an amazing life for the last 28 years, free of multiple sclerosis. So if you've never heard my story, and if you'd like to later on learn about how I have beat MS and how I'm helping other people recover from multiple sclerosis also, then there will be a link. It's not right now attached in this Facebook Live, but I will be adding it. What I'd like you to do is share your questions as I'm going through and talking about all this information and sharing it with you. Please share your questions. If you're listening to it live, great. Put the questions down. If you're listening to a replay, please put your questions in, because we're going to answer them later. All right, so starting off with new insights and research into the true cause of multiple sclerosis. I'm going to be putting a few different things together because I've learned and I continue to learn from these amazing hero doctors and from my own students and my own body also. But where I would like to start with is I was just recently listening to a talk by Dr. Ruggiero, and he was doing a talk to some healthcare professionals. It's a course that I'm taking, Brain Solutions course. Dr. Ruggiero is an amazing, amazing researcher and hero doctor. And he was talking about how we know that we have a brain in our skull, but we also have a second brain, and some of you may have heard of this before. So we're going to lay a little bit of foundation so that you can start to see all the connections, how this all works together. So we have this brain, and so we have a central nervous system and brain, but we have a second brain. And we know that our brain is full of nerves, but this second brain, it's all the way from our mouth down to our anus, and it is lined with at least, or around, they estimated at 500 million neurons. All right, so that's all the way down our digestive tract. So the 500 million neurons, they outnumber the nerve cells or the neurons in our spinal cord or our spinal column times 5. There may be about 100 million in our spinal cord, but we have 500 million all the way from our mouth all the way down to the end of our digestive tract. So this is like a second brain. Actually, there's a vagus nerve that connects it. So these nerves, they are all interconnected with each other. They're also connected to the brain through a specific nerve. And if you sever that nerve, this network of nerves can continue on its own. So what this means is that with multiple sclerosis, we think that, everything is stemming from our central nervous system, our brain, and our spinal cord, so that there's something going on in there and nobody knows what it is. Well, what we're seeing in our students, what many different researchers are seeing, is that that's not true. That when we heal the gut, when we heal this part of the nervous system, because what's going on in the intestines, and this is where the infection part comes, if you have a lot of infection in your intestines and you heal that, we see in our students that they become virtually symptom-free. All right, and they still have the lesions. Should the lesions be there in their central nervous system, in their spine, and in their brain? No, they shouldn't. I believe they're pockets of infection. I've been saying that for a long time, but the research that I'm going to share with you really suggests one specific that, and there can be others too, but it's actually two. He found two different types of microbes in the central nervous system that shouldn't be there, that would be pathogenic in our central nervous system. So first of all, we have to understand that, you know, most of us think that all our problem is because of these lesions, right? And if we could just get rid of the lesions, we would be free of MS. And that is not the true case. We will have symptom improvement because we'll get rid of the infections in the central nervous system, but we have to treat the biggest base camp of the problem, which is in our intestines. So the big insights from Dr. Ruggiero is that we, number one, we have this huge second brain in our body, which is the nervous system that lines our GI tract. And so yes, if we have infection in our intestines and they're producing chemicals, those chemicals can affect our mobility, they can affect our mood, they can affect our cognitive function, and it's all stemming from the gut. So that's the first thing I want to cover. The second thing that Dr. Ruggiero brought to light is that Canadian researchers, probably like less than 5 years ago, they found that our brain is not sterile. So researchers have felt up until this point in time that our brain was sterile and that there's no microbes that can cross into our central nervous system. So this might be a reason why we haven't been studying this, which is a huge crime for all of us that have suffered. But anyhow, so the exciting thing is that these researchers have found that there are microbes living in the brains. Like obviously they would test for people that have died, but people that didn't have any brain diseases, and they're finding all kinds of microbes you would find in the soil, microbes you would find in your food, microbes that you would find in your GI tract. So that's a big deal, because if microbes are living in your brain, could it be that those lesions are caused by infection? So we know now that the brain is not sterile. All right, that's the second big point that I want you guys to take away. So now we're going to head over to some exciting new research. I was so excited. So what I'd love for you guys to do is to please share this Facebook Live with people that you know are looking for answers for their health. And this is not just multiple sclerosis. This could be people that are dealing with Alzheimer's, people that are dealing with any type of neurological condition. There's lots of neurological diseases, right? This is where it really helps to explain why we're suffering with these symptoms. All right, so going on to the second piece. The second piece is I found about a week or two ago, I found a brand new video, not brand new, but new to me, by Dr. Alan McDonald. And Dr. Alan McDonald is a pathologist, and you can find this video on YouTube. I'm just going to pull up right now the name of his video. Let me see, where is it here? All right, so when you're on YouTube, what you would do is type in the search bar, multiple sclerosis is a parasitosis, a lecture by Dr. Alan McDonald. So that's a mouthful. We will post it in this Facebook Live later, but I'll say it again. Multiple sclerosis is a parasitosis, or parasitosis, like parasite. So parasite and then, so parasitosis, a lecture by Dr. Alan McDonald. This is profound. When you start listening to this, it sounds a little technical. Just go through it 3 or 4 times. You'll find that he starts talking about multiple sclerosis probably about 5 minutes into the video. So you might want to fast forward it, but honestly, it's gold even up until that point, because he's talking about how people that test negative for Lyme disease, they're actually finding the spirochetes, Borrelia, in the brains of people that test negative for Lyme disease. So that's really important for us too that have multiple sclerosis, because some of us, You guys put a thumbs up if that's you, but you may have been tested. They may have suspected that you had Lyme disease and it came back negative, right? So if we've been infected with Lyme, the Lyme does not live inside of our blood for long. It doesn't like it there. It moves into our central nervous system. It moves into our eye. It tries to hide from the immune system, which is super important for it to do. So Dr. Alan McDonald is sharing in this video that, I don't know how many years ago, maybe a year or two ago, he was asked to examine, he's a pathologist, so what he's doing is he gets to examine, like looking for infections, and so he got the brain and the spinal fluid of a gentleman that was 80 years old that had Lyme for, I think, 20 years and multiple sclerosis for 10 years, and he had died. And his family wanted to know if he had Lyme spirochetes in his central nervous system, in his brain. So he did the research and he looked and he found, yes, this gentleman he passed away, but he did have the Lyme disease in the Lyme spirochetes. It's a little corkscrew bug, that's what Borrelia is, in his brain. But lo and behold, he found nematodes in this gentleman's spinal fluid and in his brain. He found that the spinal fluid was really chalky looking and it had little granules in it. That's not typical. The spinal fluid should be really clear. And so the crazy thing is that he said you could actually see the worm with the naked eye. So he did use a microscope and that's what he uses, but he said the worms were big enough that you could detect them with the naked eye. So that made him, he's an amazing researcher. He's got some really good videos on Lyme disease and how they're finding that the patients that have died from Alzheimer's, he's probably back in 1983 or something like the early 80s, he already discovered that people that died from Alzheimer's, that he found a lot of the Borrelia Lyme spirochete around the plaque areas of the people that died of Alzheimer's. So go ahead and watch some of those videos too. So going back to the nematode, it's a nematode, it's a worm, these little nematodes. So then he thought, well, I wonder if this is in other MS patients. So he went to, or requested from a brain bank, from a university brain bank, and he got 9 or 10 specimens of people that were diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and had died. So he tested, and he found that every single person that had multiple sclerosis, they found nematodes and lots of nematodes in their, especially in their spinal fluid. He said it's harder to find them in the brain because they don't stick around. Like they go there, they do damage, but they are just swimming around in the spinal fluid. He found them mating, he found eggs, he found larvae, which are it starts with an egg and then they hatch into a larva and then into the worm. So when you watch his video towards the end, you're gonna actually see pictures. There's also a website where you can look at a little bit more, and that would be Dr. Paul Duray, D-U-R-A-Y, Research Fellowship Endowment, Incorporated. So if you didn't get all of that, there's gonna be a replay for this video, and you can always just pause me and write it down. So Dr. Paul, D-U-R-A-Y, Research Fellowship Endowment, Incorporated. So I went on there last night and they've got a really great article on MS, and then they show a whole bunch more pictures of these nematodes that they're finding in the spinal fluid. And he said they shouldn't be there. They can cause so much damage. So this is a really big thing. So now what I'd like to do is go on to a third piece, which is another doctor that I've been studying in this Brain Solutions course, Dr. Simon Yu. And with Dr. Simon Yu, he shared a case study, which it's really neat how all these little pieces are coming together. So Dr. Simon Yu, I'm trying to find the information here. Let's see, page 2. All right, yeah, here it is. So with Dr. Simon Yu, I don't know if it was his study or a case study that he's sharing, but basically what he shared is that there was this young man that came in and he had a lot of neurological symptoms of multiple sclerosis, and then he had the MRI done and they concluded that he does have multiple sclerosis. So from there, they put him on steroids. And then probably was working with this doctor because they used a more integrative approach. So what they did is they found that he had many amalgam fillings and root canals, and there is a general understanding that heavy metals are really toxic to our nerves. So they went and had those removed. And they did some energetic testing or other testing too, and they decided that he had parasites, and so they treated him with 2 different pharmaceutical parasitic drugs, or anti-parasitic drugs. So there are 2 anti-parasite drugs. One of them was ivermectin, and the other one was metronidazole. So ivermectin and metronidazole, those were the 2. And lo and behold, they did another visit with him a few weeks later. So after the treatment, 6 weeks later, they wanted to get a second opinion because he felt so much better. He wasn't totally cured, but it felt so much better. So they repeated the MRI, and his lesions were gone. All of them were gone. So isn't that interesting? Now to backtrack with Dr. Alan McDonald, when you listen to his video, you're going to hear him talk about back in the 1800s, they knew in the veterinary world or in the domestic farm animal world that these nematode worms could infect the central nervous system of animals, of domestic animals. And they knew that. They would give them symptoms very similar that people that have multiple sclerosis would have. So they would just treat them with simple anti-parasitic drugs, and the animals would recover. Interesting. So Dr. Alan McDonald thinks that that's one of the infections that many people, he thinks all people with MS have. So what I want to share with you too is that just going out and being treated for this nematode is probably not going to give you full recovery. And why is that? He also found that these nematodes carry Borrelia, which is Lyme, inside of them. It's like a symbiotic relationship. So when the bugs come into the central nervous system and they live, if the Borrelia stays inside of the worm, it's fine. But those worms die in our central nervous system eventually, and they release the Borrelia, right? And then the Borrelia starts to grow and replicate. And so over time, we end up with Borrelia in our brain, the Lyme in our brain, and it may not show up in our blood. All right, so I really believe that most people with multiple sclerosis also have Borrelia, and there's different types of species, different types of cousins of Borrelia. And Borrelia, when we talk about Lyme disease, there are several different types of, they're called vector co-infections. So vector meaning that we get them from biting insects, whether it's mosquitoes, ticks, now with worms, etc. And that's not a biting insect, but they are carried into our body by different types of microorganisms. So I really believe that that gentleman, he didn't have those lesions because he wasn't having the damage from those worms anymore, and they caught it early, but he probably still needs to be treated for Lyme, but maybe because he caught it early enough, he didn't have a lot of Lyme in his brain. Probably over time, we have more and more Borrelia in our central nervous system. So it's neat how all these connections between all these different hero doctors, it's all fitting together like a huge piece of the puzzle. What I want to share with you too is that Dr. Klinghardt is another hero doctor that I study under, and he has shared that in one of his videos he shared, and this was a few years ago, so I'm sure it's not any different because I went to his Lyme conference last spring, but he shared that, you know, in the past 5 years, every single person that has multiple sclerosis tested positive for Lyme. He uses energetic testing, but now he also uses a test that you can get through DNA connections. Just be aware you've got to do special things to make sure you get a proper test result. But he himself, in his experience, he works with the chronically sick, helping them to recover from all kinds of neurological diseases. And he said every single person with multiple sclerosis has Lyme, the Lyme Borrelia, inside their body. So now we have these pieces. We understand that, you know, the microbes, so worms in our intestines, they can make us feel really sick. We know that worms can, like Ascaris, a worm can produce morphine. It can produce ammonia, a lot of ammonia. It can produce histamine. So you wonder, like, there are some people with multiple sclerosis that really benefit from taking an antihistamine. I wonder if it's because they have parasites, and those parasites are producing a lot of histamines, and it gives them some symptom relief. So that's why when we're getting well, we're not just treating one nematode. And Dr. Alan McDonald said there could be different species of nematodes too, not just one. So we have these infections in our gut, and we know that now that our intestines are our second brain. So if we're getting a lot of ammonia produced, you know, it can cause the anxiety, and we can have the depression, and we can have and this is true for all the children with autism and all the people that are having different kind of conditions. So what we're doing right now with standard of care is, if we're loaded with all these infections, which we are, which is causing all of our disease symptoms, we're not treating the cause. We are treating symptoms. We're living with this burden inside of us. All right. So it's really important that we treat the cause, because that's what really gives us our life back. So one example is that about a week or two ago, one of my students has really poor vision because of the MS. But she shared, it's like it gets really bad and it gets better and it gets really bad. It fluctuates during the day. So to me, my gut feeling is this is a bigger bug, right? This is a bug that is not like a little tiny, let's say, fungus that's sitting there. I wouldn't think that you would see such huge fluctuations. That's just my, trying to analyze the situation. So learning about nematodes and learning about how they're in the central nervous system and also in the eye. Then I said, why don't you, I forwarded this information to her naturopath, and her naturopath was super excited to hear about this. So then he tested her with advanced muscle testing, and sure enough, she tested really positive for some anti-parasitic pharmaceuticals and herbs. So she started just on the herbs at first because she didn't have the anti-parasitic drugs on hand. And just within a few days, huge improvement in her vision. Not cured, right? Still had work to do. And I honestly believe sometimes the herbs are maybe not strong enough to get into our central nervous system and into our eye, but a marked change, right? Where she said, I haven't had this kind of vision for years. I can actually see my toes. And it didn't last the whole day. But I'm talking about, the first 4 days of using this, which is huge. So I really believe that we're going to see an amazing, amazing recoveries in people. Big word of caution though. Don't go out to a vet and get these drugs that I just mentioned and take it yourself, because Dr. Alan McDonald said, if you have a lot of worms in your central nervous system, and if you take too much of the drug, it kills them very quickly. And you can get spasms in your central nervous system. The brain does not like that. And with the vessel spasm, it can actually kill you. So he said you have to work with doctors if you're going to be treating these infections. And you have to go low and slow. That's one of our rules with treating infections, going low and slow. If you have too much die-off in the brain or in the central nervous system, it could be lethal, he says. So watch his video, look and see if this sounds like you. I wanted to share a few different symptoms of parasites, all right? So some of the symptoms would be abdominal pain, diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, gas or bloating, distended belly, dysentery, so that's loose stools containing blood and mucus, rashes or itching around the rectum or vulva, stomach aches or tenderness, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, grinding teeth, that is something that I did for years, coughing at night, seizures, back aches, drooling at night, rectal itch, mood swings, behavioral issues. So with the children that are recovering from multiple sclerosis, some of them have huge raging episodes, and I'm saying it's not always only parasites, but parasites, once they've treated them, these kids are completely calm again. And then we have nail biting, weight loss or weight gain, ravenous hunger. Can you guys relate to any of these things? And there are more. So obesity, overweight, migraine headaches, vision problems, brain fog, mental or behavioral problems, night sweats, nightmares, IBS, colitis, and lots of neurological symptoms. As I mentioned, these infections can just, if we're talking about Ascaris, I'm going to be talking about other doctors too that are really knowledgeable about parasites. But when we have parasites, we know that the Ascaris worm can produce morphine, and I mentioned ammonia and histamines and many other neurotoxins, amphetamines also. So it's huge. If you have a big burden of worms, remember that they're reproducing, they're producing thousands and thousands of eggs, which are growing and growing in you. So comes this tipping point. You know, if we have a few, you know, we might have some little symptoms, but if we get too many, you know, if the nematodes get in the central nervous system and there's one or two, that's one thing. But if they start to grow and reproduce, and then they start to release Lyme borrelia into our brain, there gets to be this tipping point where we crash with chronic disease. Another interesting thing, another little piece of the puzzle is Dr. Perlmutter. He brought this to our attention years ago, that these lesions are present in people that do not have multiple sclerosis, and they have no neurological symptoms. So people that have, let's say, Crohn's disease, or they don't have any disease, they were scanning them and finding that they sometimes have, even kids with autism, they can have these lesions in their central nervous system. So that's why, you know, there's multiple infections. That's the big thing, is that there is no one infection that is causing all of your symptoms. So I'm going to see if you guys have any questions for me here. Hopefully I can pull up the questions this time. I've been having struggles with it, and I don't know why. All right, so I'll just roll this down. So please type in any questions that you have, and I will see if I can answer a few of them right now. Now, if I open this, maybe that'll make a big difference. I hope so. Yes, awesome. First time I can see your questions. All right, so, okay, here we go. So many people are working very hard to kill this, Bonnie said. Hello, Maureen. Hello, Rob. Worms causing MS? Yes, absolutely. Nematodes in the central nervous system. Don't take my word for it. Take Dr. Alan McDonald. He is a pathologist who has examined many brains and spinal fluids of people that have died from multiple sclerosis. And you can actually see the pictures yourself. So go to, I shared before, I'll do it one more time. So his link is, or the video on YouTube where he shares his research. It's a little technical, but I'm sure you guys can get the point of it. So the video on YouTube is called Multiple Sclerosis is a Parasitosis, a lecture by Dr. Alan McDonald. And if I were you, I would watch some of his other videos online, all the spirochete studies finding in people that have, especially Alzheimer's disease, but Lyme is present in multiple sclerosis also, he feels. Also, Dr. Paul, D-U-R-A-Y, Duray, Research Fellowship Endowment Incorporated. All right, so that is a website. So if you do a search for that, you'll find that website, and you'll be able to see pictures of the findings that they found in the spinal fluid. And he shared it's a lot easier to find them in the spinal fluid than in the brain. So Kelly, I've had a doctor tell us lesions can be from, oops, it's moving here. Shoot, lost you there. Here we go. Number of things, such as infection, completely agree. Way to go, Kelly. You've got a good doctor. No problem. Norris, you can totally listen to the replay if you came in late. You're so welcome, Joanna. I've been meaning to get a hold of you, Joanna, but I've been putting all this stuff together, so I thought it would be better if I just put it all together for everyone. All right, so Diane. Yes, my husband is flying in, so we're definitely I'll be seeing him, which is so cool. All right, so Bonnie, one of the best things to hear is we are very close to getting rid of this disease. Yes, absolutely. So what I wanted to share also with you is, like, I'm giving you this research, and I don't want to leave you hanging. If you're a wellness champion, you know what you need to do. You know that you need to follow a specific eating plan. You know that you need to set the stage to support your body so that it can recover. You've got to strengthen it because it's been really struggling with these infections. Then third, we have to start killing these infections. So if you have successfully killed all the infections or knocked them back far enough, you're symptom-free, way to go. There are people that have done that. More and more people are doing that. If you still have symptoms, it just means you've got to be killing the infections more. And if you're brand new and you're like, I haven't heard of any of this stuff before, because most people that I talk to have never heard that multiple sclerosis is caused by infection, or the symptoms of multiple sclerosis are caused by infection, then what to do? Number one, I've got a ton of free stuff on YouTube. Start to learn this, start to understand it. The first step to recovery is you have to have a good belief system. You have to truly believe that you're dealing with infection. Because if you just think, well, I'm just going to eat right, I'm going to exercise, that doesn't get rid of the infections. They are so well established in your body. So the first step is you have to become aware that there is a clear cause. The second step is that you have to work with somebody that has like a plan for you to recover. So I have an amazing free training. You can listen to it. It's my story, all the things that I've done and what I do to help other people to recover from multiple sclerosis. And so the exciting thing is you can listen to that and you can start to understand. And if you want to start on the journey to recovery, we can help you. You can reach out to there's some really good clinics. They're really expensive. That's why I think you should figure this out yourself. But the key is that you do not have to live with multiple sclerosis or any other neurological conditions. MS is not a deficiency in pharmaceuticals. It is an excess in infections, and they are bacterial, they are fungal, they are parasitic, they can be viral, also inflammation from the infections, right? And then also heavy metals and other environmental toxins. So that is what multiple sclerosis is. And when you correct all those things, then you find that you can get your life back. One thing I wanted to mention too, so if any of you have been starting to kill infections and you're super sensitive to the herbs, it could be that you have parasitic infections. Because if you think about it, if you're taking a therapy that is not strong enough to kill a worm, for example, or worms or bigger parasites, but so it's not strong enough to kill it, but it irritates it, so it could make your symptoms worse. So we do know that, and I'm going to be talking in future weeks. Probably next week I'm not going to say which one, but I will be talking about another specific infection. I'll have to see which one, but I will be covering fungal overgrowth. I will be covering Lyme and more parasites. So we'll be doing this on Wednesdays at 5 o'clock. But the key is to understand that sometimes we have a Herxheimer's reaction because we're taking a therapy or treatment and we're taking too much of it, and the bugs are dying off faster than our body can clean it up. Also, when we kill off these big parasites, sometimes they can literally release their bowels inside of us, and there's a lot of toxins there also. And when they're dying, they probably produce other chemicals. So the key, and other microbes. So the key is to understand that you can't just go to a vet and get the same anti-parasitic drugs and just take them, because you've got to know what you're doing. You've got to work with somebody who understands this, because when we have these deep-rooted infections, we can be fairly fragile, and we do not want to rock the boat. So if you are one of those people that you are trying herbs and they're helping a bit, but you're just not moving forward, it could be that you need to switch gears and look at parasites also, and look to see if, maybe that is one of the big nails in your foot, or the big factors that you need to address first, and then you don't have the reaction to the herbs as you would normally, or as you are having right now. So that's another insight for some of you that I know. All right, last few questions here. This is crazy, Valerie says, and it's crazy, but it's true, and it really breaks my heart, because if we've suffered and so many people have died, and it has just been parasitic infections and bacterial and fungal, how did we miss this? How did we miss this? Why did it take Dr. Alan MacDonald? I think he said at least probably before he was born, like he found research talking about these infections inside of farm animals. And why is it that nobody has thought about studying the spinal fluid of patients with multiple sclerosis? Dr. Alan MacDonald said that this is not routinely done in universities, in medical schools. Nobody is doing this type of studying of just smearing, and he could see them with the naked eye. So they're not like really hard to find. They were hard to find in the brain tissue, but they were not hard to find. He said he could find tons of them in the spinal fluid. All right, let's see if there's any last questions. Hello, hello. Make sure that you post your questions even for the replay, because we will be answering your questions. Should I consult a naturopathic doctor? Doesn't seem to believe in anything. So Maureen, I'm sorry, I don't know if you were the Maureen that just joined us in the Live Disease Free Academy or not, but if you are not part of our group, the problem is, you're right, it's really hard to find a naturopath that understands this. So that's why, if I were you, I would first of all, and I'm just being really honest, you could go to like Klinghardt Academy, or it's called Sophia Institute on the West Coast in Seattle. I totally trust them. They really understand infection. And you could bring this research and say, I want to be tested for nematodes, etc. But a lot of other places, they don't even know how to test you for nematodes, and they're not really going to believe it. The only reason this naturopath that I referred to, he is a Lyme literate naturopath. He understands infections. He understands this. He's been trained under Dr. Klinghardt. So what I would do if you've never met me before is listen to my free training. It's not there right now, but you will find it in the post of this replay, and listen to it. And you're going to hear my story. You're going to hear the story of many other people that have recovered, what we've done. And if you're ready, you can reach out to me. All right. Kim, you're sticking with your diet and your supplements. You're doing really well. You're still fighting the MS. So the key is that you have to treat the infection. So any nutritional supplements, yes, it's good you're taking plant sourced. I take them too, but they cannot get rid of Lyme, Borrelia. They cannot get rid of fungal overgrowth. They cannot get rid of these nematodes. So if you really want to beat it, you just have to fine tune the killing part better, and you will recover. All right. And you're so welcome, Maureen. Sharon, I'm the first person that mentioned that MS is caused by infection. A lot of people haven't heard this before or known of this before. All right, and yes, nematodes or nematodes, maybe it's better pronounced nematodes. What should I tell a naturopath doctor to do or to help me? So Rob, you're in good hands. I personally, what I would do is, Rob, I think you are one of the brand new students, right, who are just starting to work with me. Get, number one, the eating plan down. Number two, support your body. Let's look at your infection surveys, right? Do those things first. And I'm going to teach you, if you do want to, like looking at your symptoms, if it looks like you do have parasitic infections that you want to deal with first, then what I'll do is I'll teach you how to find a good naturopath that does the proper muscle testing. And then you can go to them and you can be tested if you would like to do that. And also there's more that I'm going to be sharing, and I'll be sharing on the Facebook Lives also, because there's another supplement that I was talking to you about on the training calls, Rob, and also that Dr. Andreas Kalker. He's another wonderful, he's not a medical doctor, but he's somebody who really understands infections. I think he is a physicist. He has his PhD, I think, in physics or biophysics, something like that. But he himself cured himself of, I think it was arthritis. And he is working really closely with Carrie Rivera, helping reverse children that are dealing with autism. And he's a really great parasite expert. You can find his website, Andreas Kalker, Andreas, Kalcker. And he has a lot of, but you still, like even the anti-parasitic drugs that he recommends, you still have to find somebody to work with, a doctor or something. But remember, for all of you, that just treating the parasite, that's one of the problems. You still have to treat the fungal overgrowth, you still have to treat the heavy metals, you still have to treat the other bugs. But it's a huge, huge finding. Super excited. I wonder where this is going to go over the next few years. I'm really excited. And what I really hope you guys do is you share this, because this is huge. This is a huge, huge finding. Watch his video, share this Facebook Live. What I do is I help to simplify it, because science is kind of heavy, right? So I'm connecting the dots of Dr. Allen and Dr. Klinghardt and Dr. Simon Yu and Dr. Ruggiero, and putting them all together, and it helps to make so much more sense. All right. I think I've got all the questions here. I don't know which is the top and the bottom. You are so welcome. So I'm going to let you guys go for today. I'll be back here Wednesday next week at 5 o'clock Pacific with part 2 of new insights and research showing that we do know what the cause of multiple sclerosis is. Please share this Facebook, share the video, post your questions on the replay, on live, and we will see you next week. And oh, don't forget to listen to my free training if you've never heard it before. You will learn a ton. You will hear of many wellness champions that have recovered, including myself, 28 years free of multiple sclerosis. I want to finish by just sharing that it is truly by the grace of God that I have become aware of these insights. And I thank him so much. I ask for a lot of help from him. And I really want to thank him because I really, like, for me to be pulling all these things together, I'm not that smart. So I just want to thank him for that. So I hope you guys have an awesome week, and we will see you next week, Wednesday, same place, same time. Take care and bye-bye for now.